Yes. Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Thank you very much for tuning in. Smash that like button right now. Hit it. Yep. No, you haven't. Yes, you haven't done it yet. No, I'm looking at. Yes. No, you did. I know you have. You always do. But no, you. Yes. Hit that like button now. We're going to jump into this big debate tonight. How to fix Manchester United. What needs to be done? What needs to happen? Who needs to come in? Who needs to go? Whatever's going on. We need to have this conversation because it's one that's been flutting about for months, weeks, months, years even. And everybody treats it as a black and white issue. There is one thing that needs to happen. And maybe there are two things that needs to happen where in truth, you'll probably find there's multiple things that need to happen simultaneously and continuously to get us back to where we want to be. We've got a nice ranking system tonight where we're going to rank some different elements at Man United. Just to give you an idea, Maguire represents the players. Pogba, is he really a virus? Woodward, the fact we don't have a director of football, fan channels, our rivals just better than us, the Glazers, social media, and of course, Ollie stroke managers. They're the areas, and you can see there we're going to put them into big problem, major issue, a concern, minor issue, or not an issue. We want your views, we want your opinions on that. Great panel on the show tonight as well. Make sure you're smashing that like button, make sure you're hitting the share button as well. Really important to the channel as well. What's this comment say here? Terry is a laughing merchant. That's cool. I can take that. I've got my laugh is the only thing I've got going for me, really. But it's as simple as that. Hi to Mr. Ahmed there in the comment section. Hope you are well. Terry, sing the Europa League song. You're all good, bruv. I ain't doing that. I'm not Igal. Igal actually says that he likes it more than the Champions League song. There's something wrong with that, bro. Let's get the panel on. Let's see what they're all thinking, feeling, and saying. Evening, gents. We've actually got the return tonight. The return of an absolute superstar of the Football Terrace. He's been busy. He's back tonight. Talk Man United. We've got Aaron in the house. We've got KJ in the house. We've got man like Danny. But we're blessed to have JV back on the show. What's happening, boys? You all good?
Come on, man.
JV is back. Oh,
back.
Yo, bless, bros.
come on.
Bless,
Bro,
brothers.
it feels like that scene in Infinity War when everyone's getting pammed, yeah, and Thor just comes down with the Rainbow Bridge, fam. That's what it feels like with JV, bro. I've missed him.
Yo, bless, brothers, man. Yo, bless for the little intro there. Yo, nice one there. Man's been busy though, you get what I'm saying? But yeah, you man have been killing it still, but I'm back, you get me?
Yeah,
back.
man. Feels like an important player. Feels like an important player coming back from injury. On the ones there.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? 100%. It's good to have you back, bro. It's good to have you back. And we're gonna jump into this. There's so many problems. There's been so many problems, and there still is problems at Man United. 8 or so years. Well, you probably think since the Glazers have been here, there's been problems. But of course, Sir Alex and David Gill kept their heads firmly above water. But it's been a massive decline since. Every game where we don't win, or every game where we're not brilliant at the minute, Ollie out's trending. We've got half the fan base are against Paul Pogba. Got half the fan base that seem to be against Bruno. Got half the fan base that love Rashi. Half the fan base that think he's wasteful. And this isn't new. You know, I was sort of sitting there looking back. I went back and watched some old fan cams from other fan channels. Went back and looked at some of my own reviews, and it's the same stuff, boys. Like every couple of years, it's 2 or 3 new players that we're having to go at. The manager we're having to go at. Can things change? But everyone's got a different view. Everyone's got an opinion on what's going wrong. That's what we're going to debate tonight and discuss and try and come to a conclusion of how to fix Manchester United. And that's what we're going to go through on here. Thank you, by the way, here. Glazers out, becoming a brand new member of the Football Terrace. Big up yourself. Thank you very, very much for doing that as well. Get your super chats in as well. Same ranking show as normal. Just so everyone is aware, tomorrow evening, we are back again with the Manchester Derby preview. We'll be back in business, back in full swing tomorrow doing that. Let's take a little look at the tiering system and the things that are on here. And we've got quite a few to draw on. Is there any one that's burning out as a talking point that anybody wants to start with?
All of them are talking points, really. I think the question is, which is the ones that's the least of a talking point, and then we work backwards, because otherwise we're just spending forever on the major talking points. I want to just quickly...
If you're going to do that, can we just quickly start with Paul Pogba then?
Oh, Sure.
I'm down for that.
For me, Paul
Let's do it.
Pogba is not an issue.
Thank you very much.
Paul Pogba is not an issue at Manchester United in the grand scheme of things. And the reason that I say that, and I say it with my chest, is because we're inconsistent when he plays and when he's out injured. So how can it be Paul Pogba's fault? We were inconsistent before he came to the club. When he spent 3, 4, 5 months out, we've remained inconsistent. I understand his behavior in terms of what his agent did this week isn't great. It's not right. No one's defending that. But I do think there are some deluded Man United fans who truly believe if Pogba leaves, the glory days return. And it's as cut and dry as that. I find it mind-boggling.
I don't think anyone disagrees with you here. Like,
it's like
You literally said everything.
It's just common sense.
it's just literally people take external factors with Paul Pogba and make it an issue. I've seen people say his dancing is an issue. I've seen people say his hairstyles is an issue. I remember one time remember when we lost 2-0 to Watford away? Paul Pogba was injured. Actually, no, Paul Pogba just came back from injury.
I remember that game, yeah.
And he came on and looked good. I heard someone say the fact that he was around the squad is the reason why we lost. Even though we was 2-0 down.
I think it must have
Before
been one of the pundits, I think. I can't remember who it was, but it must have been one of the pundits.
He created 2 big chances, one for Greenwood and one for Rashford in about half an hour.
Sorry. There's one of the funniest comments ever had here. 4-1 that Aaron dipped before the end of the stream.
It's funny.
Aaron was there and he was gonna make me laugh. Sorry. Yeah, look, for me, as you say, from that, when it comes to Paul Pogba, 95% of the stuff people criticize him for is irrelevant. Dancing, haircuts, clothes that he wears, listening to a Islamic prayer on New Year's Day, whatever it may be. This stuff's just a madness, and it's a distraction, and it's a great distraction for Woodward. It's a great distraction for the Glazers to get away from their problems. And the reason we know this as well is, do you remember when I would probably say all of us 5 of here have been guilty at this at some point. Do you remember when Fellaini was playing regular under Moyes, under LVG, and it was like, get rid of Fellaini, we'll be a better team. It's been gone 2 years, and we're not a better team, are we? Like Fellaini was Fellaini was almost like the poster boy of the post-Fergie problems, but we haven't got better since he left. I remember when get rid of Rooney, he's over the hill now, we'll be better when he leaves. We haven't improved. Do you get where I'm coming from? Every single player we've scapegoated, from Chris Smalling right through to Pogba, has left or missing from our squad, and nothing's got any better. So I'm just, again, like I said, I'm sick and I'm tired of, and I'm over scapegoating players because that don't work.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, though, it's kind of a major issue because once he leaves, we can't trust these motherfuckers to replace him correctly. So it's an issue in that context.
Yeah,
it's an issue in a bigger context because when you sign a player of that caliber, he should thrive at your football club. He shouldn't be treading water. He shouldn't be sinking and swimming like.
And I think that's a great segue into the football director element. And the picture of Mr. Edwards here from Liverpool. Do you think that's a major issue at the club? That when it comes to a Fellaini leaving, a Rooney going, Herrera leaving, and we talk about Paul Pogba who's going to go next, is not having a director of football, Danny, a major problem at Man United, or somebody that's running the transfer element that knows what they're doing?
I'd have it as a major issue, not the biggest problem, because there are examples of different structures. So, for example, actually, you know what? Put it at biggest problem because Woodward's in charge. You know what I was going to say?
No.
I tell you why.
Wait, Terry, before we continue, Terry, how many biggest problems can we have? Just the one?
Yeah, the biggest problem, yeah.
Yo,
Okay,
Danny, you need
Dennis
to bring it
Woodward.
down.
Major issue.
No, Dennis Woodward, definitely.
Major issue. What I was going to say was there's different structures. So if you look at Madrid, they've got Florentino Perez. He knows how to sign superstars. He changes technical directors, and sometimes he'll just put a chief scout in charge of the transfer policy beyond his grander plans. You've got Juventus, who trust the technical director. Barcelona, who trusted technical directors under Rijkaard and Pep. They moved on to City, obviously. So there's different models. So because of Woodward, I wouldn't put it as the biggest problem, but it's definitely a major concern because the director of football, if you say to him, this is my formation, he will understand the profile of players needed for each position. He'd understand what players complement each other well. at the moment at Manchester United, we've got players for me that don't complement each other, like Maguire and Lindelof as a centre-back partnership. They don't complement each other, and that partnership is there because we've had different managers different managers picking different players. Furthermore, Mourinho didn't even want Lindelof. That's the crazy thing. He just got offered him and was like, well, if that's what you're offering me, if that's all I can take, I'll just take it. So,
and do you know what it comes down to at the end of the day? We all do different jobs, like, you know what I mean? And you know what it comes down to? I know JV, he's been doing his job, looking suited and booted, going to work. You know, when you speak to your boss, it doesn't matter what level you work at, have you ever had a boss, any of you, that you've chatted to about your job? They're in charge of you doing your job, but they haven't got a clue. How disconcerting is that for you in that position where you're like, I've been through it in my last job. I'd chat to my boss and I'd be like, listen, we've got this opportunity to do X, Y, and Z. And you could tell his eyes are glazed over. He'd look through me and I was like, he doesn't understand, does he? He's in charge of me, but he doesn't know how to do my job and he doesn't understand the industry that we work in. I'm in real trouble here because he's the one that goes to the boardroom to sell my ideas to get the budgets. That's what I think our managers have come up with. It's, as you say, it's wrong. Did you see the interview on BT Sport before the RB game with Ralph? Is it Ragnick, his name?
Oh, Ragnick, yeah. He used to be their director of football. He used to be one of their managers as well.
I just only heard it was a 5-minute interview. And I'm listening to it going, I wish he was doing that job at my club. You can tell he knows football. He understands it. He knows what to look for. This man is the guy that spotted the young Manes, the young Haalands. It's that element, but equally, as you say, it's that balance. I always talk about a football team being like a Sunday roast. Some players, they may not be the superstars. They're not the roast potatoes. They're not the succulent beef. They might be the gravy, but without the gravy, the whole thing's dry. And we don't have someone that knows how to construct a football team properly. And it's massive. Aaron, from your point of view, go on, Dan.
One other thing in that, Terry, is relationships. Directors of football have good relationships around Europe, and when you can't rely on a manager. A manager will have a relationship with one agent, maybe. Woodward, we know, has got a relationship with nobody. Matt Judge, we know,
everyone hates them. They hate them, fam. This is how bad it is. No one likes these men, Like, we are hated in world football, yes, because of our size and what we've won, and people are jealous and the money, but they don't like working with. All right, listen, I'll save this for Woodward. I'll save this.
Yeah, I will save it. By the way, I haven't got Twitter at the minute. All of my Twitter accounts are now blocked because I did post a picture earlier of my new hero, Jack.
Listen.
That's mad. I posted the picture and I covered up the sensitive, intimate parts of the young lady, but I still got a 12-hour blocking. So we were going to have Gav, LFC Day Trippers, on here tonight as a Liverpool fan and a rival talking to us. If one of you, man, could DM the link to LFC Day Trippers for me and get Gav on, that'd be great. I couldn't even DM Gav. And his mobile phone number was in the DM, but I can't get into my Twitter account to do anything. But yes, on Jack Grealish very quickly, hero. That picture took me back to being 18, 19 again. Loved it.
Did you see how happy he was?
Man's
living the life. He is living the life.
Do I say what I'm going to say? Do I say this?
No, yes, don't say it.
I screenshot the picture. And all I'm going to say, I sent it to an old friend of mine from when I was that age, my friend Shanice. I was like, just bring back memories. Just for a joke. She come back and she was like, that's not funny.
Why are you going to make her out? Why are you doing?
No one
Terrace damage.
No one knows it. It just brought me back, man. It was funny. So someone DMs that that'd be amazing. But, super chat here says, "Evening, Terry. You're doing great work on your YouTube channel. Giving other fans on the show big up to AJ on Midnight Show, doing a great job, man. Like AJ, KJ, it's all good. Thank you very much. Smashed last night on that show, bro. Yeah. So that's where we're at. Oh, hang on a minute. The business will be better. Whoa!
Nah, come on, man. We don't condone that.
Come on.
No. That was the wrong move, my guy.
I'm all for the resistance and that. You know what I'm saying? Like, but But we ain't that kind of gorilla, Mr.
Saying? I want him to get sacked. You know what I mean? I want him to get sacked.
Yeah, like
there's a limit, innit? You know what I'm saying?
Go back to banking. Yeah, we don't want nothing like bad to happen to him. Let's just say that now. 100% man meant KJ. There it is. So I think we've all kind of concurred that a director of football is needed. Aaron, of what's left, like, what's like a burning issue for you? Something that just needs to be addressed now that can't wait anymore?
Ooh, you're saying something that needs to be addressed now.
Now, yeah, what's burning in your opinion?
The manager.
And where would you place it?
I would place him in. If there was something between a concern and a major issue, I would put him there. But I'm gonna put him in major issue.
Okay.
Why? I'm gonna put him there because I think there's so many videos where we've been speaking about Ollie and his incompetence, but it's. I'm not saying that he hasn't. Yeah, it's just everything's been said about him, innit? Like, there's nothing more I can say. He's incompetent, I think, in my opinion. He's not the right man for the future. He's done what we could. He's taken us as far as possible. He's reached the ceiling. And I just think right now it's time to go. And certain things he's doing himself that he's not helping himself with. Certain things he says he's not helping himself with. And I feel like if he doesn't learn from his mistakes and if he keeps being stubborn, to certain fans, obviously, he's going to keep that legendary status and he's going to remain that guy that won us the Champions League in 1999. But I feel like if he stays with his stubborn ways, then to certain people, that legendary status could, kind of be stripped away from him. And he will just be like, okay, yeah, he won us the Champions League, but as a manager, he was a massive flop. And to me, that's the case.
Yeah, but it's not wrong to say he's a legend, but as a manager he flopped. There's nothing wrong with that. The issue is when it comes to when people say he's not a legend at all, just because he managed us poorly. That's like Newcastle fans saying that Shearer is not their legend because he was bad.
No, the thing is, I'm just making. To me, there's a difference between Solskjaer the player and Solskjaer the manager. That's what I'm saying, and I'm purely focusing on Solskjaer the manager. And what people do is because of emotions and emotional attachments to Solskjaer the player, they find it hard to criticize Solskjaer the manager. So when people, including myself, come out and say that certain tactical things he does wrong and there's certain things in-game management is wrong, because there's this emotional attachment for certain people, they struggle to say the same thing, even though they might think that, but it's just they can't say it. And I just feel like you just have to be real in it. There's nothing wrong with saying that he's done this wrong and done that wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. You can say that.
Yeah, but I feel like Aaron, I feel like people do the same with the emotional side, but the opposite. They see him as the manager and can't separate him as a player and say foolishness like all he did for us was do a tap in. Otherwise, would never be a legend of the club. The man scored how many goals for us? He scored important goals for us, including the Champions League one.
You know what?
I have an issue with both Ollie in and Ollie out because they're too far on each side of the spectrum. Ollie outers just can't see anything that Ollie does right. They pick up the smallest things. I've seen a video go around recently of him in the training field and saying sideways, we make yourself available. Everyone's now jumping on that, saying he's a crap manager, he can't coach. I'm just like, that's a small segment of a training session.
Yeah,
we don't know what on earth else he's going to say.
They didn't even put it in context. A lot of them were saying he's talking about sideways passing. They didn't even listen to the audio.
He said movement. He said make yourself available. And also the Ollie inners, again, other side of the spectrum. You can't criticize Ollie at all because he's a legend, because of this sort of that affair. And you got to be like one of those ones where you're like, come on, use your eyes. He's clearly doing stuff wrong.
I agree with lots of what both of you said. My view is this. Ollie can lose legendary status with a certain generation of fan in the same way that a lot of young English football fans don't look at Kevin Keegan as the legendary player he was. They look at him as the flop manager that he became because you didn't watch him play. So for someone who's 25 years old or younger, you don't remember Ollie. You have no emotional connection to him as a player. Now, I respect legends of Man United's past. But I don't feel the same way about Nobby Styles, George Best, Charlton, as I do Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Wayne Rooney, who they gave me those moments. So Ollie can with a certain generation. You're absolutely right about the Ollie outers are deranged. And I'm talking about not people that want him sacked. I'm talking about the Ollie out to Bob mob and the Ollie in absolute fanatical nonsense talkers. These two groups of people are ill. They're ill, bruv. They're not even normal. To think like that, to think that polarized, for me, they need to be studied. Clinical psychologists have got to study how these people think. And I'm being serious. I want to understand how any one individual could be so polarized on any one subject. I find it strange to not have balance and shade. What I will say, though, is about it being a major issue when you look at Ollie is this. It's the fourth fouled manager, potentially, if he's sacked. It becomes less of a major issue when four managers at four different stages of their careers with four different styles, four different approaches have all failed. Like the manager for me is a concern. The manager is always going to be a concern. What's more important for me is us fixing things like director of football. We're going to get onto the Glazers and Woodward a little bit later. The structure around the football club is more important because if that's broken and that never gets fixed, no man, you could bring the best manager in the world in, and I don't think they're going to get us back to the promised land now from where we are. So yes, Ollie, I think it's definitely a concern and it needs to be addressed. But if you don't fix everything else, there's a problem. I don't see Man United as a football club actually progressing, which is why I'll criticize Ollie for what he does in a game. But my focus just isn't on any manager anymore. And it wasn't so much on Jose when he was here. I just feel like we've gone beyond that as a football club now because you get it wrong 4 times running. I have no faith in them picking the 5th guy. So that already undoes I have no excitement about a new manager because I'm scared of being excited because these men that we just spoke about are going to kill him as well.
I'd add to that, Terry.
Yeah, go on, mate.
I'd have him as a concern or lower, mainly due to the fact that every Manchester United fan at the start of the summer agreed that we need to strengthen our first 11. We needed a right winger, a DM, a centre back, potentially a left back striker, etc., etc. If the manager doesn't get the tools that you said he needed, and then come the end of the window, we all grade the window. I don't think any one of us on the United show gave it a higher than a 7.
I would have said not higher than a 5.
Yeah, not higher than a 5.
Okay.
I mean, it was low.
So we strengthened that argument by saying, actually, the transfer window has been atrocious. We didn't get what we needed. How much can you blame the manager then if he didn't get what we all agree he needed to take the team forward? That's why I don't think he's a major problem. Definitely a concern because there's certain things. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not. He's still learning. And for a Manchester United still to be learning, it is somewhat of an issue. But actually, like we are where we're supposed to be under Ollie with what he has available, in my opinion.
Yo, JV's about to speak up. Go on.
Yeah. No. Yeah, well, it is definitely a major issue. Definitely, 100%. 100% he's a major issue. You see what he's when he's making such vital decisions, good decisions, such as the first wins in the 2 legs of the Champions League against them PSG and Leipzig. Yeah, I mean, winning like that for you to then play them a second time and then change your approach both times makes no sense. There's other things what it does which makes no sense. As much as the Glazers and Woodward and everything above him is a problem, there's a lot of the times where it's on the pitch. His decision making is an issue. It's losing those games. It's losing those plenty of games. His decision making is losing those bad games. So that's why you have to say, like, as much as they're an issue, if I could put them both in the top category, I would. Do you get what I'm saying? If I could put Ollie and Woodward and the Glazers all in the top one, I would. Do you know what I'm saying? But I think, of course, you know what it is. 1 second. I think another manager now, with what we have now, it would be different. If we had, that's the one everyone can agree right now. If we had a better manager, it would be different. As much as Ollie's getting the most, or he can't get the most out of these players. If we had a better manager, we'd be in a better place.
But I think it depends
with the Woodwards and that. With the Woodwards,
it depends on how far you see the Man United and fixing it. I think that's the difference with people. Some people see it as, I just want an immediate change now. So what can I change to get some success as quick as possible is the manager. I would agree with that. But if you're someone like myself who wants Man United to be the best team in the long run, the manager is just a symptom of the biggest issue at the club, which is the guys who run the club and the structure of the club. And I think that's why I can't say he is a major issue. He is an issue. I don't think he's the right guy to take us to the promised land and for us to be the best team. I don't think he's the guy to do that. But if I'm looking at it holistically, I'm like, yo, let me look at it when I'm with 5 years down the line, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years down the line. Is Ollie now stopping us from being the best for 10 years? And I don't think he's the one. He's stopping us from being the best maybe for 2 to 3 years, but past that, it would always be the structure of the club. It will always be the people that own the club. So that's why, for me, he's a concern. He's an issue that needs to move on. But I think there's bigger things that we should be turning our minds to. Because at the end of the day, his contract's up, at the end of next season? He'll be gone sooner anyway. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like...
You know what I'm going to say?
You know what it is, Kate? Sorry, Aaron, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, because you mentioned earlier the transfer window and how atrocious it was. And I agree with that. But in my head, I was like, and maybe it's because I've been in it myself, so I kind of know how it works from inside. And I'm just like, managers sometimes don't get the players that they want, but obviously in training, like, don't get it twisted. In training, the players talk about it. Yo, Gaffer, what's the situation like with Sancho? I don't know. Like I guess we've all seen during that clip of when we played the Europa League in Germany, and people were reading lips, and Ollie was saying they want more money. Like, these things are being talked about in the squads. Like, yo, Gaffer, what's going on with Jaden? I don't know, man. They want more money. They want this. They want, like, people talk about it. So when a player doesn't come, the manager's like, okay, cool, guys. I'm guessing you all know X wanted to come, Y wanted to come, but it didn't happen. Fuck it. Just gonna have to work with what I got. I don't know if I'm not gonna say I don't know if that conversation's being had with the players, but I don't know if Ollie had that mentality of, all right, cool. You know what? Didn't get Sancho. F it, man. Just gonna work with what I got. I don't know if that's happening with him because, and in terms of people talk about improving players and specifically the game against Leipzig, everyone was on about how Wan-Bissaka's positioning has been awful and this, that, and the other. And I've seen a clip go around on Twitter of a compilation of how bad Wan-Bissaka actually is in terms of positioning, because it happened bare times against Leipzig, and then I've seen moments where it happened bare times against Brighton and all these
Brighton
things.
was a big one.
And I'm like, okay, cool. Yes, Wan-Bissaka needs to do better positionally, but I'm just asking myself, what is being done in training to let Wan-Bissaka know, like, listen, bro, this is what you need to improve on? Because when I was playing, I was like, there was, and I said this in the group chat, I had this weird rule with myself where every game I wanted to have at least 2 or 3 shots on target with my left foot. So when I was playing on the right wing, I purposely wanted to cut in to try and do that. So at one point, the manager was pissed off with that, and he took me off, and I didn't start for like 5 games. He's like, if you're gonna stop it, either you're gonna stop it, or you're gonna be on the bench for the rest of the season, and you just be coming in for 10, 15. So I stopped it. So I'm just like, what's being said to Wan-Bissaka for him to improve positioning?
I can tell you, one, it's a fair question to ask.
Yeah.
I'd ask the following questions. Does he have a ceiling in terms of his football IQ? Is he able to take on the information? We won't know. That's just a hypothetical question I get. I like to reference things because Sir Alex Ferguson was the greatest teacher in football that I've seen.
Right.
If we remember, between 2009 and 2011, there was a point where it looked like Raphael was going to improve, and he'd been at the club for a decent amount of time, and he just didn't.
Yeah, he kept
Right
stagnating.
now it's early in Wan-Bissaka's career under Ollie, so you're questioning Ollie. But the reality is we could move on from Ollie, get another manager, and after 4 or 5 years, we'll see actually no, his ceiling was. We saw his ceiling when Ollie was here. So it's really it's a tricky one. What I would say though, in regards to the transfer policy, and I think we'd see the same problems with a new manager because Ollie has lots of players that are the legacy of what Terry mentioned before. Everyone agrees that the recruitment's been inconsistent and poor for 7 to 8 years. Ollie's dealing with that. He's dealing with Lindelof, who we know is not suitable. We've only just replaced Shaw. In midfield, it's imbalanced. That's why we wanted a DM. We wanted that for a reason. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think, players have improved under him. You brought up Wan-Bissaka, Fred's improved under Oli. The version of Fred we see now, we didn't see that under Mourinho, who's a better manager and better coach.
Wait, did we really want a DM? Because I always have this feeling in my head. If we really did want one, we wouldn't have given McTominay a new 6-year contract. I think Woodward does his lazy thing like he does. He extended Matic's contract for a year.
I'll get onto those contracts, bro.
Guys, just to round this up so we don't get overly stuck in the mud here. Back into the Oli point. I think the improvement of players is an interesting one. But do we fairly attribute that critical thinking to other managers? So why is nobody having a go at Jurgen Klopp right now for not doing finishing drills with Firmino in training? Because he can't score. Is that Firmino's fault or is that Klopp's fault? As you mentioned there with Raphael, with Fergie, he never become better than he had more talent and ability as a young man than Gary Neville, but got nowhere near his standard. That must be Fergie's fault, right? Now I know I'm not having a go at Klopp here. I'm not having a go at Fergie here. I'm pointing out that with Oli, I think we look to put everything on him because he doesn't have much credit in the bank as a manager that he is. For me, I listened to the games about the audio one, and the other night I was hearing Oli move the ball faster, move the ball quicker, spread out. He was giving instructions, he was shouting at them. But
he does that. Yeah, I hear that as well.
And some players weren't doing it. And why are they not doing it? Because when it comes to the clutch moments, when it comes to the big games and the pressure, people clam up. And part of that is coaching, but some of that is just individuals. The other point that we've made.
I've said this before, Terry. When you just mentioned that point there, I don't think players are afraid of Oli. I honestly don't think they are because they are comfortable with making mistakes and they just like, know what? Next game I'm going to start anyway.
And you know what? And that's fine. I think that's a fair criticism. But you then take that round to a better manager coming in. We had Jose before this, and the squad that Jose had when Joe, and this is why I don't put the manager as a major concern. When Jose was struggling, the rhetoric was, the narrative was, a better manager could make this team top of the league. And when Oli came in and we spent 3 months winning, it was, see, look how good we are. 3 months after that, it was, we need about 8 to 9, 10 players gone. And I think if Poch comes in tomorrow, we might have a good or a bad or an indifferent run when he comes in. But anything that goes wrong in the first 6 months of Poch being here, it would be squad ain't good enough. We'd suddenly defend the manager and put it all on the squad again. And my issue, which is why I don't make any manager now a major concern, is that I've seen that same process, same blame game, 4 managers running. And the fact that it's happened like clockwork each time, that for me is the evidence and proof that, of course, the manager's ability to coach or his man management or whatever it may be is a concern and is an issue. But until the structure around any one manager is nigh on perfect and brilliant for an institution as big as Man United, I don't think any are going to flourish because LVG and Jose Mourinho are 2 of the most successful managers of the last 30 years, and they struggled. So when you think about it logically, remove all emotion, why did we suddenly think an inexperienced manager like Oli was going to come in and do better than them? And do you know why we did it? Do you know why we fought it? Because we had this notion of if somebody with red in their blood comes in, they'll get it and they'll do a good job. And every time we want to get rid of a manager, we want something different. We want a more technical manager after Oli, after Jose, after Moyes. And then we wanted more of a winner after LVG, who was still in his prime. And then we wanted a man with red in his blood after him because Jose killed the club, didn't develop the youth. Every time we want something different. And my view is but the same problems happen each time. So look, for me, and we'll put this to a vote, I would put it as a concern. And it's something that when we fix the structure, if I was doing this, I would fix the structure first. And then I'd move the manager on rather than, or bring a manager in who can help and be consultative in building a new structure. So I don't think Oli should stay, but I don't look at it as being a major problem because it's 4 failed managers in 8 years. And that for me tells you that the people picking and running the club are a bigger issue than those 4 managers. That's kind of my view.
You know what, Terry? I actually don't have a problem with chopping and changing managers because that's the era that we're living in now. I don't think, apart from Klopp's been at Liverpool for 5 years? Was it 5 years? It's very rare that you're going to see managers stay at one club for over 4 years now. That's right. Just the reality of things.
There's nothing wrong with it. But again, our issue is we've got to trust these guys up there to be chopping and changing managers, and that's the issue, fam.
Sorry, before I lose my train of thought, can I just... Sorry.
Yeah, go on, Danny.
Aaron. I agree with you, Aaron. Yeah, but you know what has to happen first? This is the model. If you look at Chelsea, the manager doesn't matter that much because they recruit players well consistently. They've got a model for recruiting the players that they need. One window: goalkeeper, centre back, left winger, right winger, forward, attacking midfielder in one window. Could you imagine if we were able to consistently prove we can get the players in? Because for me now, there's no messiah manager. No manager can save this. But if we can recruit players consistently well, then the manager doesn't matter. Chop and change every 2-3 years if we know we're going to have the best players in the world at the football club. So I agree with that.
Being run well. And I think for me, what I keep coming back to in my mind is, if you look at all the teams in the major leagues now at the top of their game, Liverpool, Bayern Munich, as examples, they're all really well-run clubs. If you look at the small teams that are doing well in the Premier League, so you look at a Brighton, who are punching so far above their weight. Bournemouth, although they got relegated last year, punching so far above their weight. Why? Because they are run impeccably well. There is no such thing as a badly run football club.
Wolves is the biggest example. How can the man come up from the Championship and be European challengers each season since that point?
Because they're run.
George Mendes.
Well, yeah, but
busted an agent of all things.
Mendes is part of that. I worked at that club, like week in, week out for over a year. Yeah, that's true. Mendes is part of it, but that's because of the relationship that the owner has, and the owner's willing to put his money where his mouth is. And that club is so well structured, so well run from top to bottom. It's an amazing place to be. So, how you run a football club manifests itself on the pitch, as far as I'm concerned. We've got Gav on here, and I know me and him had a sort of a Twitter debate the other day. It's hard to have these conversations via a debate, but you look at Liverpool, a prime example. Look what was going on when Hicks and Gillette were running them. And yes, their bad running of the club is different from the way the Glazers are doing it. But even when SFG first came in, it still took time for them to grow and improve and run the club better. And they've systematically got better. And what is it amalgamated in? It's amalgamated in them being the best team in Europe, best team in the world for the last 3 or 4 years. That didn't happen through them still running the club badly like they were a decade, 15 years ago. That both things have to coincide. You can't just go, right, let's go out and get the best manager in the world. That will fix the club. Unless you're going to listen to that manager and allow the changes that manager instructs to happen permanently and consistently, nothing's going to happen. Like, in my view, I even think if they would have continued running Liverpool as a club the way it was under Rodgers when Klopp came in, and my understanding is, Gavel, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a lot of things that Klopp's changed in terms of recruitment. There used to be, wasn't there like a transfer board that committee? Like, there have been fundamental changes that he has had changed.
I swear we were supposed to have one as well. Remember that? Apparently,
everyone
has one.
Fletcher was meant to be on it, and
yeah, we're supposed to have one as well. I think Bayern Munich run like that.
Every club has a transfer committee. Yeah. Every single club in world football has them. Well, anyone worth their salt has. The problem Liverpool had is that they told everyone about it and they put a name on it. That's the truth. They went out and they said, look, everybody, we have a transfer committee. And people went, well, are you fucking joking? This was backing it up, of course, with Being Liverpool, the documentary where Rodgers is seen in the first episode having a go off Raheem Sterling at a training session in America. Lads, come here. I did have a row with Terry on Twitter the other day, and Terry's big thing on this is the big picture, and I get where he's coming from, but it's not all down to the owners. Like, I've listened. I'm watching this show since 9 o'clock. I'm going to be honest with you. Paul Pogba is an issue, by the way, but you need a plan, and everyone needs to be on the same wavelength with that plan. And look, by all means, you can blame the owners. Like, Hicks and Gillette is a different stratosphere to what you're experiencing now. Hicks and Gillette came in and were digging up pieces of Stanley Park and telling people they were going to build on it, and they were never going to build on it. They were taking all the money out of the club. They put the club within hours of administration. They were literally telling Rafa Benitez that he could have Kyriakos as a summer signing because he'd no money left, so that's Liverpool's comparison to United with regards to finances and how they were ran is it's so different. But I get where you are coming from with regards to the owners and stuff like that.
Yeah. But you have to look. My comparison isn't that they are identically being run identically. My overarching point is that badly run sports clubs and teams are not successful on football pitch or on the field of play across all sports.
Yeah, but Terry, I look at your squad, right? and I look at it and I go, De Gea, right? People have doubts over De Gea. I still think he's one of the best in the world. You know, when Maguire was signed, most United fans hailed this signing. Wan-Bissaka the same. Lindelof, I think, was he might have been a Mourinho signing, I think, but people were like, yeah, it's a steal. Luke Shaw is signed for 30-odd million and people were raving about him. And I'm going to be honest, I thought it was a great signing for United because Liverpool were looking at him as well. Paul Pogba, that's the one where I think it's an issue. I don't think it's a footballing issue. I think that might be part of the tug of war at United at the moment with regards to Solskjaer. Solskjaer is quite clearly very cold on Paul Pogba, but obviously the powers that be are looking at him going, listen, he's a £90 million signing, he sells jerseys, he sells merchandise, he's a World Cup winner, all that sort of stuff. But when you go through that squad, Terry, there's not many players in that squad that you would say when they signed you didn't think that's a good signing.
And that's mate, and you
talking about that, can we transition on to the players?
We're going to move on to players in a second. That's my point about the managers. That's why Ollie, yes, he's a concern, but every single manager that we've had has had a squad of players at the time of the signings and at the time when you're reviewing it. Every single Man United fan and every single rival fan has gone, that manager should be doing better with the squad that he's got.
Yeah,
so
100%.
The fact that he's fouled 4 times running makes me not focus on the players and on the managers as closely. For me, there is a deeper rooted problem at the football club, the mentality, the process, the fact that you mentioned there's no plan and everybody's not on the same page. We know this for a fact with our owners and our board is every 18 months they change direction of how they want to work. That makes it a very unstable place and not a conducive environment to create success. So until that structure is ironed down, and we don't need to know what it is, Gav, but they shouldn't be telling anybody what their process is. They should be keeping everything.
No, don't name anything. Don't tell anybody anything. Don't put names on it.
One of the biggest things that Woodward did wrong was coming out with that nonsense about we can do things in the transfer market nobody else can. Ever since then, everyone's been all right. Well, we're going to slap the price up for you. And
well, that's what scuppered the Sancho deal. Because listen, Manchester United have the money to go and sign Jadon Sancho tomorrow, no problem whatsoever. But when Jadon Sancho's looking at Alexis Sanchez on 500 grand a week, Marcus Rashford walking around on 350, De Gea the same, he's going in going, I want 350. You know, and it's the same way Liverpool put a name on a transfer committee. Manchester United came out and not threw their balls on the table, because when you throw your balls on the table, you make a signing. But they threw shapes in around world football, and people went, really? Is this what you're going to go to? If they'd kept their head down, they would have had Jadon Sancho way before transfer window deadlines and stuff like that. But they didn't. What they done was they went out and they threw their weight around and said, we'll just dominate Dortmund here and we'll bully them into doing what we want them to do. And Dortmund said no. And I'm in no doubt, Terry, that there's issues at Manchester United. I'm in no doubt that the owners could do more. I'm in no doubt that the manager could do more and the players. But the problem you have is you can't pinpoint the one big issue with this club. For me, you can't, because
yes,
you spoke. No, you can't because you tell. Is your squad good enough?
What to what?
Just a simple yes or no.
Yes,
your squad is good enough. So would you say
Absolutely.
would you say your manager is good enough?
No,
okay.
No.
Really?
One sec. Let's go back. Good enough for what? I need to know what I'm saying yes to.
Well, what you're Manchester United. You tell me what's good enough.
No. You're asking me a question. Tell me what will be good enough for, and I'll say yes or no.
Are you good enough to win a league title like Manchester United are used to doing?
Then no. This squad isn't good enough, and the manager isn't good enough.
Okay, and for me, this is why blaming the owners, although they can do better. They're taking money out of the club. We know they bought clubs on loan. They bought the club on a loan. That's the truth of the matter. But the point I was trying to make to you the other day, Terry, was you can absolutely have a go at the ownership and what they're doing, but you need to look across the whole club and say, if one's pulling in one direction and one's pulling in the other. Like, let's be honest, the club have put $1 billion up since Alex Ferguson left.
Yes, but when people are looking this way and people are looking that way and going left way, whose job is it to rally everyone back into the same direction? Because it ain't the manager, it ain't the players, it's the people who run the club. You're saying what you're saying is correct, but then saying, but you can't really blame them that much. It's a foolishness, because they're the ones who are supposed to be the ones being like, right, guys, with this, everyone's going left, right, and center here. We need to come back together. Here's where we want to go. Let's go forward. If they're not the ones doing that, why am I expecting the manager to do that? Why am I expecting players to do that?
Well, I expect Jurgen Klopp to do it.
Yeah, but the thing is,
hold on.
You shouldn't have expected Klopp to do that. But the thing,
absolutely did.
Wait,
because
one sec, Gav. You know why? You know why it worked with Klopp is because you're bored and your your hierarchy was winning and allowing Klopp to come in and put his input in to help steer them in the right direction. They wanted that to happen, so they went with that.
On
Our
Klopp,
board don't
Very
want
fair point. Very fair point. Like Klopp comes in, and you know we've seen Hodgson. The less you speak about that, the better. Thanks. You know we've seen Rodgers, we've seen Dalglish, and we had owners that were learning, and they made bad mistakes at times. They really did. But Klopp comes in, and Klopp stamps his authority on this club, and says, and he did. He makes changes to the way we do transfers, nutrition, training, recruitment. You name it, he makes the changes. And because he is that demanding of that. I can't understand how a Louis van Gaal, who is lauded when he comes in because he gets Holland to third place, I think, in the Brazil World Cup, and then you bring in Mourinho, who's lauded because he's Jose Mourinho, and none of these can do this.
That is the point. That is the point. Now, I had
a something he mentioned, Terry.
One second, Danny. I had a face-to-face meeting with LVG not long after he was sacked. I was his private bank manager in my last job and spoke to him. He told me this stuff years before he spoke to the media because he couldn't because of contracts. They don't listen. He went in there, promised the world early on, got his way, man put trees up in the training ground, changed the structure of things. You get a year, 18 months in, and they pull the rug from under your feet. Jose Mourinho's is a madness because actually what they did to Jose got backed by fans because of their love for Pogba and Martial. Jose got a new contract in the January. March said, look, it isn't working with these two players for X, Y, and Z reasons. I want them sold and moved on. I need these two players. Now, there's all rumors around who he wanted to come in. No one knows for a fact, but that's what was told. They went, no. And they said no. There was a war between the players and the manager. The board backed the players, which in my eyes you can do, but then you don't then keep the manager in charge to then manage those same players. And they created a friction. And then in that summer, he goes, right, can we buy some more players? They went, no. He goes, I need a midfielder. We can have Fred. Don't want Fred. It's Fred or no one. That's what they did to Jose Mourinho and LVG. And that, for me, is the proof in the pudding. Two of the most successful managers of the last 30 years in and were told point blank, you ain't having what you want. What hope has Ollie got? He's got almost none. And
exactly.
He has none because he's Ollie Gunnar Solskjaer. It's nothing to do with the stuff being put. It is true.
I totally agree.
Ollie Gunnar Solskjaer.
Can I address a point you made before we move on? So you brought up, we spent £1 billion. The pound amount spent is actually irrelevant if you don't spend with a plan and you're not recruiting top players consistently.
Yeah,
I look at this Liverpool team. That first 11, every single one of those players are Klopp signing.
No.
All right,
Jordan Henderson isn't.
He didn't want.
Out of your first 11, sorry, JB. Out of your first 11, is it fair to say like 8 or 9 of those players are Klopp signings?
Well, your first 11 would be Alisson. Yeah, Trent comes up from the academy. Robertson. Yeah, not Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez is a
and not Firmino. Firmino was actually Rodgers, wasn't he?
Yeah, so you're looking at Firmino, Gomez, Henderson. I think.
So 8 players in your first 11, right? All Klopp signings. Yep. Manchester United managers never get that far. They never get that far. They never get an opportunity. We never ever consistently sign priority players in the right position.
We still have a third.
But you know what it is though. Yeah, you know what it is though. You can't say. All right, then 1 second, Gav. Do you think that United need a director of football?
To be honest with you, like, I'm not. I don't know if it's a better structure or it's just in a direction they need to go in and all agree on that direction. And if it's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you say, listen, we'll take the good with the bad. It's a bit of a reset all around, and I include supporters in that because when I look at Liverpool, like 13-14 was amazing and Gerrard slipped and all that, and yeah, we had a great laugh. But it was one of those things that was built on sand. You know, and you knew when Sturridge goes on international duty in the August and Hodgson plays him while he's injured and he's out and Suarez has already left, you know it's not going to end well. And even though it was a brilliant season, you're still looking going, this is just it's nearly a club running on adrenaline. You know what I mean?
You said there about building on sand. That's my issue here. And your point about Ollie not being able to get things done because it's Ollie, I agree with that point as well. But if two of the biggest managers of the last 30 years will promise something and have the rug pulled from under their feet, even Ollie, less than a year ago, Woodward was briefing the media about the cultural reboot and the restructuring and all the advice they were taking from Ollie. Come the summer, they promised Ollie certain players, certain timings. and they didn't deliver for him again. And you're right, there does need to be a plan. And what my fear is that we do sack Ollie, not sacking Ollie, that isn't the fear. We bring in Poch, and there is a quick little bit of success that happens because the squad's good. But as you just said there, Gav, built upon sand. When it's built upon sand, it can fall away a lot quicker. And like I've said before, I've got no issue with sacking Ollie. I've got no issue with criticizing Ollie. That isn't what bothers me. What I'm bothered about is when I watch Man United fans, which had a comment I read out a minute or I put up from Danny a few moments ago, where he said, like, VS Boas, Di Matteo, Hiddink, and Rafa Benitez, June 2011 until November 2012, won Champions League and FA Cup and the League Cup. Changing 4 managers in 8 years means nothing. Ollie out. But it does if there's no structure. It does if, in my opinion, with the Glazers, and we'll get to them in a minute, we've got to jump onto these other talking points. When you're owners of your club's main priority isn't to make you the best team in your country to win the league, I think you're always going to have problems. With Roman, love or loathe the way Roman has done things with the money and everything else, what he wants is Chelsea to be the best team. And that's what he strives for. And that energy is pushed through the club. It's like, we're here to win league titles. That's our ultimate goal. Man United, it's for the bank balance as far as I'm concerned. Winning a trophy is secondary, in my opinion. And that ethos needs to change. I want to move on, though, quickly, guys, because we've got a few other subjects I want to touch on here. I want to throw these ones out there. We'll get on to Woodward and the Glazers. And I'm going to stick them to in biggest problem. We could come on to later, right?
Okay.
We mentioned players.
Minor issue.
Do we think our squads are made? Where do we think that sits? Just quickly, where do we think?
A minor issue, because if everyone's saying with a better coach, we'd be better. If we did this, if we did that, we would be better with the same set of squad, same set of players. Then clearly, it's just minor issues that need to get sorted. And then we should be winning.
So I want to move on. I want to move on to something we're all involved with here, because this would be an interesting chat. I want to move on to fan channels. Fan channels and social media fans. Do you think in this modern day era, fan channels, social media, getting Ollie out trending and Jose out trending and Trashford trending, is this bad for the club? Does it negatively impact the players? Does it damage their psyche? Does it make the media go after them more? Thoughts on that, gents?
Definitely, 100%. 100%. You know what it is? I think, especially with this generation, if it was an older generation, who aren't already into social media and all of that, everything anyway, then they might not hit them. But these younger ones, probably like from as soon as you sign your pro, not even that, but you've got a phone. Even when these young academy guys, they're already all into all of that from young, because they've got phones and everything. So even when you get into first teamers, of course they know about everything, what everyone's saying about them. Of course it can affect them. It's like back in the day, if you played Macca, they tell you don't pick up the newspaper. You know what I'm saying? Don't look in the newspaper and that. Don't neg yourself out. Do you get what I'm saying? But these players nowadays, they'll just open their phone and they see they played bad last night. They open their phone. Man, I've got a new nickname. You know what I mean? You've got a new nickname.
Earlier on, I was saying we don't need the news of the world of the sun, because you just give a football player an iPhone, he'll stitch himself up.
He flips that app open. Check this one out. Even if he doesn't go on anything, he flips that app open. Man, I'm messaging him. He's got hella messages, you know what I mean, from fans or people just trolling or taking a piss, or you know what I'm saying. Even his own fans, you know what I'm saying.
Can I ask you guys?
They're all affected by it.
When Pep comes out and calls it, when Pep says people call me Fraudiola, these man he's a manager.
That was going to be my point. Like, anyone that says it's not true. Lampard as well, talking about if I do this, or if I say this, people might say that or accentuate the fact that Mason Mount's my son. Like these guys know.
Mbappe did it. He tweeted what was it? Farmers League that time.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So these man know
what's going on, innit?
Sorry,
but
one big issue.
Do we think? Sorry, Danny. Do we think that fan channels, and we're talking Man United specifically here, and rivals, I suppose, because they go in. Do we think? And we are part of this. Have we been detrimental to Man United in the last 8 years? Have we stopped us rebuilding?
Yes. I have to bring this up. I had a guy tweet me earlier telling me that Sir Alex Ferguson was a coach. He doesn't. This kid did not know Sir Alex Ferguson was a manager and had coaches that work under him. And my problem with YouTube is these fans today, they're getting a bad education on football.
Yes.
I grew up learning about defending from Alan Hansen. That's how I learned about how defenders are supposed to do what they're supposed to do, right? And you've got young kids today. They're not watching Match of the Day. They're not interested in the Sky Sports analysis or people who know how to do that job well. They're just watching Man on YouTube, educate them poorly on the game. Like, how can you be a Man United fan and not know? You just do not know Sir Alex Ferguson was just the manager. I had a go at Man United fans on Twitter for not knowing the history of the football club in the Champions League. Before we won before Sir Alex Ferguson rebuilt the team, and we got that league in 06, 07, we were bottom of the Champions League group the year before. Anderlecht won that group that year. These men don't know about Rio Ferdinand being paired with Laurent Blanc. Rio Ferdinand being called not world class because he had Mikel Silvestre bringing him down every week.
His bald head, that man's head, fam.
You sound familiar.
What Man United fans remember us going through a point as a club where we had to play Rio Ferdinand and Alan Smith as our central midfielders.
Oh, please don't remind me of that.
We signed Smith as a striker, by the way.
He was a striker.
I remember.
I was in Manchester at the time, and I remember being in this bar, and I just remember listening to old heads. And I know, like, we have this thing now where no one wants to listen to older football fans. It's almost like, you're just shouting at clouds, listen to the youngsters. And young people, no disrespect, just listen to your elders, why they've been around longer. You know, I had a debate about the Ollie in, Ollie out thing the other day. And some lad, he was a nice lad, he was 18. He doesn't remember, he literally said, I don't really remember what it was like when Moyes was here or LVG, because of my age, I was young. And I'm like, exactly. Listen to someone that lived through all four of them. And everything you've said about Ollie, people said about those two managers, this has happened before. All need to change.
Oh, you had it with the Ryan Giggs and Paul Scholes slander. People coming on this platform trying to tell you they're
here's how you know that social media and fan channel social media fans have not helped Man United's cause. Phil Jones is approaching 10 years at Manchester United, and that's a testimonial. By the way, and that's a testimonial year for you young kids who don't know, because testimonials are rare nowadays. 10 years at a football club, you get a testimonial to celebrate the time you spent at this club. He got offered one, and he said, I do not want to have one because the only people that turn up is my mum and dad. You know how sad that is. As you may not like Phil Jones, you may feel he's terrible. You know, look at Aaron. I think he's like the worst footballer we've ever had. But for someone to get such an honor of being somewhere for 10 years and to get offered a testimonial, and for him to say no because no one likes me and only my parents will come up, is like take the banter away. It's genuinely sad, and we've done this to him. All the memes everywhere.
No. He's done that to himself. He's done that to himself.
JV, he can't help injuries. He can't help injuries. He's not good. He is not good. I'm not saying he's good, and he doesn't deserve any criticism.
He's just seeing this as chill and get paid. That's
I'm going to say this on there. I think there are two or three different things with fan channels. I think. I know me and Gab have had this conversation before. I think when it becomes excessively abusive, and I'm talking nasty, there is no excuse for it. That is damaging to players' psyche. Managers.
Can I ask you a question, Terry?
Yeah.
Just on that point, do you think social media was the reason that Man United fan waited for Jesse Lingard just to tell him he's crap? I don't know if you guys remember that video.
Yes, it was for clout.
Because people are looking for those moments. Half the things people say on social media, they don't really mean. They are looking for that. They're looking for that attention, if that makes sense. Definitely that. But for me, that's fine to an extent. But there's two elements of it. And some of it's social media based, and some of it is the mainstream media based. When people abuse individuals, and I'm talking, we had that guy Super Chat earlier saying that he wants Woodward to die. That's too far. Like that is bad. If any platform pushes that message of that level, I remember having I attacked all the United fan channels for not coming out and defending Fellaini when thousands of people took to social media when he signed a new deal, wishing cancer on him, hoping his legs get broke. And Man United, like the Man United fan base with reach and clout, was silent. And for me, silence in any issue like that, any kind of abuse, silence is definite. Silence for me. I've said it before about other issues. When you're quiet. When no Chelsea fan channel addressed the situation on the train in Paris, that silence is, you're accepting of that behavior by sitting there and keeping your mouth shut. You've got to step up and say something, and the same can be said for that. But the other side of it is this: a lot of fan channels and stuff is banter. Like Rance is amazing in what he does. A lot of it is banter. You know, Goldbridge, a lot of his things are banter. It's a character. It's character based to an extent, right? It's there for a bit of fun. The problem is when the media then picks up on it and starts doing the same thing. And what I mean by that is Roy Keane. Roy Keane doesn't go on Sky Sports anymore, really, to give us insight into his football mind. And he has got a football mind. Not a great manager, but just because you're not a great manager doesn't mean you don't understand football. He goes on there now to call people idiots because Sky Sports know it's going to go viral. He goes on there to say something controversial. Even Patrice Evra, I love Uncle Pat. His last 2 or 3 rants on Sky Sports, I've watched it and just gone, I can see through you. You're acting like you're being a YouTuber on Sky Sports. You're not. What you actually said is nonsense. Even about the man you love, Fergie. You should always just pick your best players. No, you shouldn't. No team no great manager has ever just picked their best players. You pick the best team possible. And that doesn't always mean the best individuals. And you know that because you had Park Ji-sung running around next to you and John O'Shea, bruv. So he knows this. He knows it better than anybody. But what's happened is the sensationalism is where it's always meant to be. And it's there. So I think there's a mixture. Of course you can have those moments that are viral. And of course fans should have absolute right to go on there and rant. But it's when, and how I know this happens is because of someone like Rants. Now Rants is amazing. Rants will call someone Rash Bandicoot, and then I see it everywhere, and everyone's trying to pass it off as their own thing, and then I see that kind of chat in the media. I've seen in the last year the amount of people trying to downplay how good the class of '92 were, or how good the treble-winning team were, and I see it on social media as a little thing, and it trends, and I'm like, that's funny. And then I see a big publication print an article very similar within a few days, and I'm like, see, that ain't helpful because it's the bad dedication and everything else. But
I've got a question for Gav.
Mm-hmm.
Gav, Liverpool's Liverpool's bad stint wasn't really around for social media. It came towards the end when social media started to grow, and now you guys in the position that you are. Why is it that Liverpool fans have got this massive cohesion when it comes to on social media, where you defend your players, you defend your manager, you defend your club, and you don't really say much about them? Whereas United, Arsenal, Chelsea, at times, all the different other teams, they're just out there slating their own players, saying their own club. What's the difference?
You're not looking in the right places. There's plenty of disagreement between Liverpool fan bases over players and different things. They do come together on certain things, like, you know, when FSG tried £77 tickets at Anfield, you know, it went absolutely crazy, and then over 10,000 people walked out of Anfield that day. I think they played Sunderland on the day. But look, social media for me it's not the real world. You know, it's just not. You know, I always put it down to a lot of stuff I see on there. You wouldn't sit in a pub and hear someone come out with them words, you know, what you actually read. So to me, I just let it go. I let it go over my head. But with Liverpool fans, listen, it all depends on how well you're doing, isn't it? Because, you know, I'm sure if you go onto Arsenal Twitter, or you go onto United Twitter at the moment, or clubs that aren't doing great, I'm sure there's carnage on it. With Liverpool, it can be if we lose a game. Like I'll put it to you this way: Liverpool played Midtjylland last night, and there was a meltdown because Fabinho and Salah started. You know, why are we starting these players? You know, and we done a show last night, and my point of view was, well, Fabinho has to play. You can't put a back four out with a 17-year-old and an 18 or 19-year-old as centre back. I know it's a dead rubber, but at the same time, some players are rhythm players, and Fabinho wants that 45 minutes. And the likes of Salah is coming back on the same trajectory as Henderson. Henderson from an injury, Salah from the COVID situation when he was in Egypt. So Salah has come back and played a couple of games, but Salah is most definitely a rhythm player and probably needs, you know, 90 minutes a week somehow to keep himself going. But last night it was absolute meltdown's probably not the right word, but a lot of people upset at the fact that 2 players that will be in our starting 11 played in a Champions League game last night. Now we understand that to a point, because, you know, it is a dead rubber. Liverpool have had bad injuries, probably more than most in the league, I'd say, and COVID situations and wherever else. But look, if you look in the right place on Twitter, you will find Liverpool fans that disagree with each other, like, to the ends of the earth, and will stand on an opinion for years, just because that's an opinion they've given and they won't change. So it's for me, it's just one of those things where, look, it's probably a reflection of how your club is doing, how you read social media, and how negative or positive it is. It's just one leads on to another.
Yeah, do you know what it is with fan channels? I think obviously there's bad sides to it, and like you said, you know, abuse can get over the top sometimes. But I actually think it's a good thing, because for the simple reason that fans like us who live in different places around the globe get to come together in one stream and just give different opinions. And even though, like Danny says, certain people get schooled or educated the wrong way on YouTube, there are certain people on YouTube and on platforms where they speak about football on their streams where you can learn something from. And what I don't agree with, especially with the United fan base, is especially when we would be outside the stadium after games and stuff, people come at us and, call us all sorts of names and say that we're negative for the club. Meanwhile, these same guys are on the Stretford end singing, he's going to die, Ed Woodward's going to die. Like, it doesn't make sense. Do you see what I mean? So, yep. And I feel like there are a lot of people who do understand what we're all doing, but there's a large part of the fan base who just doesn't want to transcend and just understand that we're in a different generation where these things that like we're doing right now, this is normal now. This is the norm. Yeah. It is normal now. In 2005 or 6 maybe, when the game was done, you'd probably just chill and talk about it with your parents or whoever you're watching the game with. Now in 2020, when the game's finished, if United lose, they'll go and watch the football terrace. If Arsenal lose, they'll go and watch the AFTV. Like it's the new thing now, and I think. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people
you come here.
And I feel like a lot of people just don't understand that. They fail to understand that we live in a different generation.
Without fan channels, we won't get the relationship that we saw with Aubameyang and Troops, and that's something that's people said the relationship between fans and players.
Where have you ever seen that where a star player of a football club in England has a direct connection with a fan? Like, we've never seen this before. That's why whenever we talk about this, Troops and Aubameyang is the prime example.
Do you know what?
For that reason, I like it.
I've put it in them both social media and fan channels as a minor issue. But I said about like the players and managers even being a concern rather than a minor issue. Is yes, there's some Liverpool fans that do whatnot, but the fans where things catch fire on social media or of the clubs that are not run well. And I honestly think, again, if you run the club well and made the club successful, what happens on social media wouldn't catch fire like it does. It's all these things perpetuate from the same, and we're coming all the way back round to it. It comes back down to the owners and the way the clubs run and the direction that you're going in, because the clubs that are successful have less issues on social media than the clubs that are not. Because people, the thing with football is, it's been this since I can remember, and especially where I grew up as a kid, like in the East End, and everyone supported different football teams where I lived, but football had the same meaning to everybody. It was escapism from real life, and it still is now. And I look forward all week to my team playing and my rivals playing, and I get in that 90 minutes, it's like my world stops and I'm watching the football, and it's escape from work and kids and all the things in life that you love but are stressful. And when it's not going well consistently, it makes you frustrated because your escapism is suddenly not as enjoyable anymore. And maybe that's my fault for picking a team at a young age who are very successful, and now I see that they're not, because one of my brothers is a Leyton Orient fan, and he's never other than when the club nearly went out of business because the owner was bad, he's never really that angry whether they win or lose, because the expectations are different, if that makes sense. But for me, if the club was run better and we were moving in the right direction, there'd be less of an issue on social media. The only area that I come back and push back on is when the criticism turns into nasty abuse and there's so much silence. You always see people fight out. If it's sexism, if it's racism, a lot of people push back. But when it's vile abuse, I wish your legs get broke. I hope your wife dies. I hope this. There seems to be like a quiet acceptance of that. You look at Granit Xhaka as a prime example. There were actually Arsenal fans who said that he swore at us, he's a disgrace. Yeah, but Arsenal fans were like DMing him a week saying his wife's got to die. I don't care. He shouldn't have swore at us. So what do you mean you don't care? Like, a player putting a finger up at you is nowhere near the level of someone wishing cancer on your wife. Like, let's put these things into perspective. And that's where I want to see fan channels fight back. Forget your base. Forget you might lose a few subscribers. Push back and say, no, that's not on. The abuse is going too far. Block them.
You know what you said there earlier about when the clubs run well, then obviously the fan base and social media is going to be positive, and vice versa. This is why when United came out in the summer and said, we're not going to bow down to social media, I'm like, bro, shut up. Let us say what we want to say. Fix your club and we'll be positive. End of.
Speaking of positivity on the internet, Zane here says Arsenal will be fixing United in the final. Martinelli will be
look at JV.
some more Brazilian food. JV's been gone for months, but Zane is back. Zane is back as ever. Love you, my guy, Zane. Love you. By the way, we're announcing tomorrow who's top of the Super Chat League. I can give you a bit of insight. Zane has been knocked off the top spot. He's now down in 4th as it stands right now. A man like Daniel, a man like Monster, and Lady Strip Bear are number 1, 2, and 3 in the chart.
She was on my stream, bro.
Talking about Strip Bear, apparently she's doing a madness.
Terry, you got 4 veins. Terry, you got 4 veins. You got 4 veins.
Yeah, I'm not saying like that. I respect my super chatters. I respect my viewers massively, especially the ones that pay. Of course, I've got to respect them enough. We're going to keep them down there. We're going to move. I want to move on to Ed Woodward and the Glazers. They're both currently sitting in biggest problem. I want to go to JV first on this, bro.
And rivals down there.
Oh yeah, rivals. Do we think
that's not an issue?
It's not an issue. It's not an issue.
We need to sort ourselves out.
Hold on. Rival fans or rival football clubs?
I heard the reason I brought this up. I've read some articles. I've been going back through the time trail, and I've read some articles from some bloggers and a few journalists, basically stating that United's downfall is worse than we think it is because of how much better Man City and Liverpool have become. Because if Man City stayed where they were 7-8 years ago, we wouldn't be as angry with our downfall. I read that, and I get the logic, but
rivals are a concern. Did you see what Chelsea did in one summer? Rivals are a concern.
But it's not a concern in terms of fixing United. Them being good.
Your rivals are always a concern.
Danny, them being good and sick don't fix United. It's got nothing to do with it.
That's why
I hear that. In that context, I can't argue with you, KJ. But generally,
and that's a great point, and that's my view on it. I read the articles, and I was like, I hear that, but I don't want to focus on Liverpool. As in, I do as a rival because I want to banter when they lose, and I want to be able to laugh at them when things go wrong. And nothing goes wrong at Liverpool. It's so annoying. Barring the 7-2, there's been nothing to laugh at Liverpool for like nearly 2 years. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
I've got meme videos waiting and I can't ever release them. It's so frustrating.
Actually, you know what, KJ? I'm flip-flopping. No, they're a concern because it comes back to their run well and we're not. So it has to be.
Yes. One second. This is what I was going to say, bro. This is what it is. It's the fact that it's our 2 main rivals. Well, how can it not be a concern? Think about what he's saying, bro. It's our 2 main rivals. It's not like it's London clubs, you know. It's not like it's Chelsea or Arsenal, bro, or Tottenham or whoever. It's the 2 biggest teams that are actually closest to us. One's over there and one's just a bit further down there. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's in terms of even like how can I put it? Like players, like if we wanted to attract a player to somewhere that's not London a few years ago, more time it's us straight away. You get what I'm saying? Like they are them being who they are now compared to who when we were a big team. Yeah, they were no one, and then they're now. If you look at it now 1 sec. If you look at when even like say I don't know. Like when we get Ronaldo and that. If I say to you when we just get Cristiano Ronaldo now, when he's young. If I say to you, you know, he'll still be playing, but Liverpool will be this and City will be this. You'll be like, what you on about? Do you get what I'm saying? No.
My thing is,
we can't even just go and pluck players gone.
Yeah, if Liverpool were bad now, does that change our situation? Are we any better? My answer is no. You know what I mean? If Man City were bad,
you know why it does? It does though.
How? Because it's KJ. Why did Leicester win the Premier League? KJ,
it's another competitor not there.
Why did Leicester win the Premier League? Because everybody else was in transition.
Yeah,
your rivals were doing
they still have
to. Let's ask. I want to ask Gav. We're all sitting there arguing about ourselves, which is fine. But Gav, as a Liverpool fan, do you overtly think about rivals from a point of view that impacts how you feel about Liverpool?
No, I don't. But again, I think it comes from the base you start on, and the base Liverpool start on is they're the best team in the country. And you know, when you look at it, Liverpool don't need to concern themselves with other people, but they don't seem to actively concern themselves with other clubs, and they focus on themselves and they do their job. Now, having said that, when Liverpool weren't the best team in the country, of course you would look around you and say, you know, United are doing this, or Arsenal, or Chelsea, or City, or whoever it might be, Leicester in 2016. Well, the Leicester one's a bit of an outlier, but I think that's the biggest. I think that might be our biggest problem. I genuinely do. I think if you're looking towards other clubs and watching what they're doing, I think it can lead to panic in yours. And the biggest one for me is probably Everton and Liverpool. Like, Everton spend an awful lot of time talking about Liverpool, comparing themselves to Liverpool, comparing what Liverpool have to what they don't, and they seem to nearly seem to exist, trying to be Liverpool. Now, a lot of Everton fans will tell you it's not, but you know what I mean. They seem to concern themselves with, not what Everton doing. It's we're doing this, but what are they doing? Who cares what they're doing? You should be looking after yourself. I think that might be one of your biggest worry, lads, and that's why I stay quiet while you were talking there, because
I love how you just shitted on Everton.
I agree with Gav. I don't think it's a concern when I put my head on, because I think about rivals I'm obsessed with my rivals I want to be able to banter them, I want to be able to laugh at them, I want to be better than them. But I'd never, in my life, in my careers, I've never the only time I struggled in one of them was when I spent 2 years worrying about somebody else.
But you see, that's the thing. That's the thing. For a club. But sorry, lads. But sorry for lads. But for a club, like, if you're Manchester United and you're looking at City and you're looking at Liverpool, right? Can you do what City do? I don't know. It's there's an argument there that United have the financial power to do what Man City do, but they couldn't do it as readily as Man City do, because it's a country you're up against. Can they do what Liverpool do? Yes, they have more financial clout than Liverpool. It's that difference that gap, I suppose, is shortening year on year if you look at the finances of both clubs. But can they do, when you're looking at City, it's a financial thing. When you're looking at Liverpool, it's a process thing. And if United get hung up on City's finances or get hung up on Liverpool's processes, United are going to panic. Because look, I'll put it to you this way. If I go out and I play golf tomorrow, okay, I play golf. If I look at the guy playing me and he's really good, if I spend too much time looking at him, I'm just going to panic myself over what I'm doing myself. I'm going to end up panicking about what I'm actually in control of, because I'm too worried about something I have no control over. And I think that's fundamentally what it comes back to. And when we talk about your owners and we talk about stuff, and people are asking in the chat, what's he fucking doing here? He's a Liverpool fan. But the reason I had this argument with Terry is because I've seen it all. And, I'm starting to wonder, as I said, I don't think your owners are the best, but I don't think they're the worst because of the outlay of that club. But I have a feeling there's a panic within that club. And the panic is, this manager, get that manager, get this player. Oh, we're not spending on that. We're not doing this. Let's throw this out and see how it goes, like Sancho and stuff like that. I think there's a panic, and a mixture of a lack of direction plus panic is just not a good mix. And it doesn't matter who owns you, it doesn't matter who manages you, and it doesn't matter who plays you.
And you know what? You said that, and we're coming close to the end there. And that's why I've moved a few things around, and we can move them back again. That's why if I was to mark all these things, this is where I would put them. And actually, I'm going to move Paul Pogba up to a major issue, but not for Paul Pogba. And I'll tell you as to why. Everything you've just said there, Gav, is right, but it's controlled by the ownership of this football club. And what I mean, and what I mean by that is, I think getting the owners out is harder than getting Woodward out. I think them selling is almost non-existent, and I get that, but they can still make changes. If you had Woodward go back to commercials, and you brought in a proper director of football, and you had a plan that everybody from top to bottom, middle out of this football club stuck to, okay? And the reason I did that, you stop thinking about rivals. You stop thinking, oh, they're doing this, we're going to copy that. How many times have you seen articles from credible journalists about Man United are copying this, Man United are going to copy that, Man United are going to go for this approach? Drop rivals down, forget about them from a process point of view. You got the thing here, Pogba isn't an issue, but we allow it to become an issue, because what we end up allowing to happen at Manchester United is agents to chat what they want. We get bent over barrels. We allow player power to ensue. Why? Because this man has enabled this stuff to happen now for years, where he's picked players over managers consistently, and not because of what they're doing on the pitch, because they're £90 million buyers, because of the commercial deals. You move player power down so it's not an issue anymore, or player issues like that. The manager area, I want the managers to be the biggest problem at the club. If we're not successful, I want the biggest problem to be the manager, where it's coaching. I don't want it to be a case of, well, every manager we go through goes through the same damn cycle with us all the time. For me, I want the manager to be up here. I want the biggest problem to be him, and I want everything else to be a minor and made a minor concern for us. And it's about everything's run really well. We just need the manager to bring the team on the football.
But he is probably our biggest issue.
He's not, though.
He isn't.
Lads.
Everything, guys, everything you've said is the opposite. You spoke about no plan, no direction, panicking over what other clubs are doing. That ain't the manager, bruv.
Yeah, no, that's not. But this is what I'm trying to say to you. This is what I'm trying to say to you. You cannot, and this is what I'm saying. He's one of your biggest issues. You cannot pinpoint the biggest issue at Manchester United, and that is the problem.
We have.
So let me tell you this. Let me tell you. Okay, so I'll ask you something. Let me ask you a question. The Glazers go out tomorrow. They leave tomorrow, and a new owner comes in, right? And he decides that he's going to be really well run, but he's going to cut the amount of money you spend in half. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you will be having the same argument in 6 months that Manchester United is not run well enough because they don't spend enough.
That's nonsense.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not, lads.
No, but obviously that's not happening right now, innit? Let's talk on what's happening right now.
That isn't. See, I get where you're coming from there, Gav. The answer is I don't know, and I'll tell you why I don't know. I need to know. They need to tell me. It's about what the plan is. If they come in and they cut the spending in half, they hire top-level footballing directors. They have an amazing board. They create a plan of action behind the scenes. It's a 2 or 3 year plan to get us back. They bring in the right kind of coaches. They do the right level of due diligence to make sure they're the right people. They remove player power as being an issue. We can get, but Man United haven't needed to have spent nearly £1 billion.
Hold on. You're talking about player power not being an issue. That's down to the manager. That's down to the manager of the football club. Come here, I tell you. If hold on a minute. If Mo Salah turns around tomorrow, if Mo Salah
have that problem.
No, you clearly have that problem with Paul Pogba. You clearly have a player power issue with Paul Pogba because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer cannot do an interview about Paul Pogba and give a straight answer in any way, shape, or form. Okay, in any way, shape, or form. What's happening with Paul Pogba is he's probably, arguably, United's most, I would say, creative player. Okay, I think he would easily have the biggest influence over that side, all things being equal. What you have is a £90 million signing that they don't want to lose from the higher echelons of the club because it would see him as a massive loss of face. Yeah. Okay, that's what you have there, and now you have a manager that I don't think can handle him. Okay, and doesn't want to handle him, but he can't.
But you've done it again, though. Gav, you've done it again. We had a manager who tried to sell Paul Pogba, and they said, I know at Liverpool, and I know at Liverpool.
And what did he do? And what did your owner say?
They backed the player.
He said what?
They backed the player. They said no, they wouldn't let him be sold. Exactly. Yeah. And that's the point.
But this, I've just said that. I've just said that the ownership. I've just said that the ownership want to keep the player because of it's a save and face exercise. What I'm saying is, I think you have a manager that A, cannot handle that player, B, does not want to handle that player. No, hold on. He does not. He does not want to handle that player. Okay.
Sorry, I hear what you're saying, but this is my whole argument all week. We're focusing on the fact that Ollie is struggling with this right now. Mm-hmm. We have been struggling with these issues for 8 years. That's why Ollie now is just cannon fodder for 8 years of this situation going on. Jurgen Klopp, if he wanted to get rid of Mo Salah tomorrow, I believe your club would allow him to do that.
100%.
Yes, and that's because you're a well-run club that gives the manager that anonymity. We have proof. LVG, David Moyes, Jose have all spoken about how they had the rug pulled under their feet consistently. So to suddenly say, oh, it's Ollie's fault now. Ollie hasn't had the rug pulled from under his feet. They're doing all the right things for him. Ollie's the one who's struggling. That for me is short-sighted. Every other manager has been told no for these kind of things, but suddenly we think Ollie's a bad manager because he can't handle Pogba. Well, Jose couldn't handle Pogba either. Why? Because the Wood wouldn't let him handle him. And the same thing is going to ensue. Until we run the club properly, until the manager's given anonymity. And I'll give the example about Poch. A lot of people want Poch. Poch did 2 or 3 big things in his years at Tottenham. The way he benched Danny Rose when he was one of his star players, the way he benched and put into the stands Toby Alderweireld. Can't do that at Man United. Every time a manager's tried to do that with a star player since Fergie, the managers had the rug pulled from under their feet. It never works. That's why, for me, the focus is the Woodward and the board. And the board, by the way, are the owners. If you look at the board,
Yeah.
they're the same thing. They're not different. They're the same thing. And until we actually give the manager full control and power for a prolonged period of time, or maybe you start off slowly and build that up, we're never going to become successful, because you'll walk in and you'll be like, right, I need to get rid of Maguire. I know he cost you £80 million 2 years ago, but imagine Poch comes in, Allegri comes in, got to get rid of Maguire, absolute trash. I can't do that for you. Why? They're £80 million player, it'd be embarrassing. Yeah, but he's going to keep costing us points because he's trash. Sorry, you just have to make do and mend. That isn't how you run a football club. And that's why, by the way, we could have, if we were run properly and bought correctly, and we bought right, we wouldn't need to spend the money we've spent, because you wouldn't need, every 2 years, we have to spend big again. So you have a new manager refreshing the squad. If you have the same guy or same plan for a 5-year period, you don't need to buy £200 million a player.
Imagine this year. Wait, Gav, imagine this year. Imagine Klopp, he's got Lovren, he's got Karius here, and he goes to your board, I need these two guys gone. And they say no because you got to a Champions League final with them.
Yeah, I hear you.
Is that good rank football club? Lovren,
I've never said that Manchester United is a good run football club. What I said was is that there is issues within Manchester United. For me, looking at it from the outside, and there is similarities to Liverpool going back so many years, okay, about plans and about direction and different things like that. What I'm saying is, it is very hard to pinpoint with absolute fact that the owners is the problem, are the problem at Manchester United. I will simply point to the money that was spent at Manchester United since Alex Ferguson left the club. The managers have come in and been lauded. The players, I can't remember a Manchester United signing being made where you where you went. No, but I just can't remember. I just can't remember a Manchester United signing being made in recent times where Manchester United fans, as a vast majority, have said that's a great signing. I include Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, whoever you might name them. It doesn't matter.
All right, then I'll put it like this. I'll put it to you like this. You can't say anything about the signings when you can say that we need more structure, or we need this, or we need that, or you think things ain't right at the club. That's why the signings are like that, because things ain't right at the club. You can't then use the signing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't use the money spent. Yeah, the money spent like that.
The money spent is irrelevant. Net spent is irrelevant.
No, what I'm saying is, it's using that. But I'm telling him why he can't even use that minor because it's because of the net spend. I'm saying because he's admitting that things ain't right there. So then, if things ain't right, and then spending money, obviously it's going to be wrong. They just got money. They just money. Quick with the money in it. That's all it is.
Question for me.
And Gav makes a really good point. Sorry, Dan. Gav makes a good point about pinpointing the specifics. Now, for me, the specifics are hard to pinpoint because we're not involved. In terms of who we look at, it's very, very clear to me, because the reason there's no specifics is because of our wishy-washy approach. We keep going in a new direction every 18 months, and we're doing
I think your owners have been spooked. I genuinely think they've been spooked by the outlay that they've put in, the outlay that's gone out on players and the results that they've got.
Yeah, and that's
and you know what, you're right. And you know what, Danny said this before. Yeah, you're right. This is why Ed Woodward is the biggest issue at Manchester United. The Glazers care about money. Yeah, they care about money. That's all they care about. This guy has sanctioned deals in terms of big money deals for so many players, and then put them on high wages. Red Woodward would be earning the Glazers more money if he just managed even the deals correctly. This is the problem.
Yeah,
when you've got Marcus Rojo on 80 grand a week, you can't sell him. When you've got Phil Jones on 75, when you've got all these net players on these bigger wage, they're looking at doubling Bruno Fernandes's contract already. Why?
Got to.
Yo, listen.
Actually got to.
Right, KJ, back to that. When you remixed the point I made before on another stream, in most jobs, if you made that Sanchez error, if you made that mistake, you'd get fired.
Do you want to know a little?
I think the biggest issues with Ed Woodward, and listen, I'm not going to defend Ed Woodward because, like, to be honest with you, what he's done at Manchester United is highly amusing to me. I'm not going to lie, but what I will say is that you know too much about Ed Woodward. And that's the big issue for me. Like, we know everything about him. And the Sancho deal was all about Ed Woodward and what Ed Woodward was going to do. And what's Edward... You know, now Liverpool have this thing with Michael Edwards, where Michael Edwards, you know, the big story is he's on the laptop, he's a data man, he watches this, he picks players, you know, and he's a genius at what he does. But it's not all about Michael Edwards. It's actually, it's a funny thing that Liverpool fans go on about. Michael Edwards has pulled off another masterstroke. It's not that. He's part of a team, you know, this committee that we don't name anymore. But the Ed Woodward stuff is just madness for me. And look, I've said it from the start when I come on here. I'm not here to defend Manchester United's owners. I think there's a problem with the ownership. I think there's a problem with managers, players, the fans, and the outlook they have. For me, it'd be United need a bit of a reset, and they need to just go, listen, we're not going to win whatever for the next 3 years, but we're going to put this into place, and we're going to go with it, and we're going to give it time. But Ed Woodward, I can guarantee you, there was an argument. Sorry, there was just the last thing on it, Ed Woodward, right? There was an argument the other day over Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It was across social media. It was about it might have been about him being backed. It might have been about him. I'm not 100% what it was about, but it came up. And what was the first thing that came out after it? Ed Woodward has said he will back Ole Gunnar Solskjaer through a strategic fucking plan across summer windows. What the fuck is Ed Woodward telling you all this?
This is our issue. I've said this before on many streams before. The only reason you know about a board, you know who a board is or a CEO is of a football club, is if they're either the really good or they're really bad. Like really bad. Why do we know who Mike Ashley is? Because he's terrible. Why do you know who the Gold brothers, them West Ham?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Why do you know about them? Because they're bad. Why do we know about Ed Woodward? Because he's crap at his job.
Do you know what I think stood out there? What you said that about needing a reset. You're absolutely right about the element, Gav. Right. And I don't think
who's going to reset it?
The point is, the people that would be in charge of the reset are the ones that have fucked it, and that's why, man. That's why Aaron. Like, I actually agree with 95% of what you say, even about Ollie and moving on. The problem is, I can't see any logic in doing it if it's the same situation.
It's like your woman.
Can I ask a question?
It's like your woman cheating on you. Yeah, it's like your woman cheating on you 5 times. Yeah. And you're like, right, I need to stop being with women who cheat on me. So now what I'm gonna do? I want to stay with the same woman who's been cheating on me. That's the same.
This is why for me,
same thing.
I've stopped talking about the Glazers because I'm not stopped, but it's for me, it's pointless. Not pointless. Hold on, let me rephrase that. I don't talk about the Glazers as much as you guys because to me, they're not going anywhere. So us talking about it is cool. That's fine. We can point out the problems. That's cool, but they're not going anywhere. So for me, the things the thing that can change at the moment is the manager.
Why do you believe that you can have the power to get a manager out, but not Ed Woodward out?
I don't think that's the point here. The issue is, though, Aaron, I get that logic to a point, but if the same people that you can't remove are the biggest problem at the club and they're ruining it, you saying manager out and getting the manager out isn't actually going to change anything either. It's a hamster. We're hamster wheel FC. We're just on that same circle. Pick a can FC. Nothing changes. Now, I'm not saying you and me ranting on social media is going to make a change. Yeah. But it's the energy. My point is, it's where the energy should be, because when I've seen 4 managers have different nuances but foul in the same way. Go back and listen to fan cams. My advice is the proof's there. I don't even need to prove this shit because the experiment's been done. Results are in. The evidence is here. Go back and watch fan cams on full-time Devils in the United stand from the Moyes, LVG, and Jose era. And just every time they say Jose's name, go that Ollie. Or every time they say Fellaini's name, go Pogba. It's the same shit being said. Bring this manager in. They'll make this work. They'll make that work. It's the same bollocks. And
this is what I'm saying.
But the big thing Gav's right about is there does need to be a reset. But the only way the reset works with the Glazers being here is if that board has new people injected into them. And until they do that, and until they make changes, and I won't even be satisfied, the Leggy comes tomorrow and says, I'm bringing in all my coaching staff, I'm bringing in 3 of my scouts, I'm bringing in my brother and 3 members of the Sicilian Mafia to make sure Woodward gets out of here. I still won't trust that in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months time, the Glazers don't do what Gav said, and Gav's right. Go, we're getting cold feet again. We're pulling the next rug out. Rug number 5 pulled away. I just can't trust these, man.
This is what I'm saying. I'm not afraid of chopping and changing. I'm not.
Well, why? Because we're always going to get it wrong.
But
I
that
said,
doesn't.
I'm not afraid of chopping and changing. I'm not.
But wait, so Aaron, are you
Because-
basically-
because
this is the
if we-
problem, though. This is the
because when
issue.
we-
This is the
Yeah,
issue
go on.
with the chopping and changing, right? And to Gav's point about the reset, all the evidence we have since Sir Alex Ferguson's left, because he was the structure before, is that these men don't know how to implement a structure. Whether they're being advised badly by managers or advising the managers badly, it doesn't matter which direction you go in. We know what the end result is. The biggest example, Mourinho finished second, back him. If they're not going to back a manager who finished second and they just gave him a new contract, what hope is there for when we push this reset for the next manager that comes in? The patterns emerged. They're going to keep doing the same things.
The big hope, and I'll say this because I'm bouncing right now, but the big hope that we have is the squad. Check that one out.
Yeah,
That's the biggest hope
listen,
that we have.
come on now,
I'm bouncing off. I'm getting off, lads,
It's coming back on, bro. Speak to you soon, man. We're ending in a minute anyway. Go on, cheers, bro.
Lads, I'm just
sorry,
I'm just looking like when I say reset, you know, I'm not talking just like get rid of everyone and start again. It's not like that.
Oh, I know that.
I think that like, I'm the reason me and Terry have conversations about, like, he usually talks to me a lot about Liverpool and I talk to him about United, is because there is similarities with the clubs. That's why they don't like each other. You know, the similarities in the size of the club, the reach of the club, the expectations, the trophies won, all that sort of thing, and the periods of time the clubs have gone through. You know, United go through that barren spell up until 93, okay? And then Liverpool go through a barren spell from 90 to this year, you know, that way. And all right, they're different eras, but they're still the same thing. It's still football and it's still not winning, you know. And on the other hand, your rivals are Liverpool are mopping things up in the 70s and 80s, and United are doing it in the 90s and 2000s until money comes along with Chelsea in the middle of the decade and a few years later with City. But what I mean by a reset is that, and I've seen this from Liverpool fans, like we as Liverpool fans used to look at it and go, this is our year, because it was just blind optimism every year, okay? We went down the romantic route as Souness and it didn't work, okay? We went romantically to a point, I suppose, with Roy Evans because he was in the famous boot room and we gave him a chance. We tried to change it with Houllier and he was fairly successful, but ran out of the club in the end. Benitez, it was an ownership thing there with Benitez and Hicks and Gillette and stuff like that.
Benitez did a great job.
But Benitez was a brilliant manager for Liverpool and still got ridiculed because he had the nerve to stand up to Manchester United. And that's the truth. People go on about, oh, remember the outrage and the rant he had. He genuinely just had the nerve to stand up to Manchester United. You know, that kind of way. And the media at the time didn't like it. Liverpool fans were a bit, whoa, we haven't seen this in a while. Probably since the time of Dalglish, to be honest with you, because Dalglish is a very, very straight-talking man.
Lost the game. That's
yeah,
why.
and he loved the club and he wanted to see it succeed, and that's all you want. But what I mean by a reset is that when we see in 13-14, okay, and we were gutted over 13-14 because it still goes down as probably the second best season of football I've ever seen at Liverpool, because it was just madness, you know, for 6 months of it anyway. But when we see what happened with Rodgers and Klopp was brilliant, October 2015, Klopp turns in and he's world class, you know. But the thing about was the biggest thing for me at that time was people just took a minute and went, hold on, we have a brilliant person in place here, but we need to manage expectations. We need to put not so much put time frames on it, but let's just see progress. And it doesn't matter if it's a little step or a massive step. That's what we need to see. And I think as a club, you had owners that were learning and continue to learn to this day. You know, you go back to the Furlough incident in the summer. They learned from that. They're still learning, but they seem to have grown to love the club as the years have gone on. And then you have a manager that has progressed things and a fan base that have went, listen, we're going to see progress, let it go. Because if you remember, Klopp comes in into October 2015. He bins off the league to try win the Europa League to get back into the Champions League, and it doesn't work, okay? He signs Mane, 16-17, we're flying. We kind of fall away then, you know, in the league. But we're seeing, I think we finished fourth in 16-17, okay? Yeah, we do. But if you look at it, you know, it was small progress, and there was media starting to get on Klopp's back, and a couple of Liverpool fans were going, oh, well, look, we're a year or so in now, and what's happening? But for a vast majority, we managed expectations. We seen progress, no matter how small it was, and we went from there. And that's what I think Manchester United need, because I have a feeling, Terry, sorry, and this will be the last point on it, I have a feeling that Manchester United as fans have massive, massive expectations, and rightfully so for the size of the club they are. But I think it's leading to the club as a whole trying to fight fires and keep up with those expectations when they need to probably measure it.
And see, everything you've said there makes sense because the reset. Look, an ideal reset for me would be they sell the club, brand new board, and you build from there. That isn't going to happen though. So you're right. It's about changing certain elements. It's about removing people that have been unsuccessful, and that does include, say, Ollie. It does, but it also includes the people that have been running the recruitment, the people that have been doing the contract negotiations, and everything else. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. The one thing you pulled on there again goes back to the Glazers and the board, and you said it earlier that they get cold feet, that they react too much to what's being said in the media, to what rivals are doing. If your owners had done that when Klopp was going through that little sicky patch 2.5 years in, if they'd have gone, fuck, it ain't working, social media's kicking off, rivals are laughing at us, the media are writing stories, sack him. That's what we do. If you'd have done that, you wouldn't, we don't know 100%, but you definitely wouldn't have had this success with Klopp because Klopp wouldn't have been there. And that's where United need to change. So we know when you get these Man United fans that say things like, I just want to see Ollie given to the end of his tenure and be backed. The backing's the element here. People instantly go, being backed is just having money spent on you. I think it's more than that. I think having a plan of action as a club and the club staying on that trajectory is being backed. It's being supported. You look at the Jose example is the biggest one. As you say, we were second in the league and they'd already, before the end of that season, they'd already pulled the rug from under his feet and told him no. They gave him a new deal and 6 weeks, 7 weeks later, wouldn't let him sell players he wanted out and bring players into the club that he wanted. And until we change have that reset and we change that permanently. And there's a super chat here, and I suppose I'll address Aaron with this before we end the show, and it'll be the final point we make. He says, Terry, the first question should be, could we ever be successful again with the Glazers and Woodward? And I'm going to add a bit onto that, running things as they have been for the last 8 years. Her answer is no. And I suppose I'll ask out of you, Aaron. If we keep running the club the way we have done for the last 8 years, do you think another manager could come in and do what Pep has done at City or what Klopp has done at Liverpool? Because that should be the expectations for Man United to get to that kind of, not maybe not the 100 points, but, winning back-to-back league titles, winning Champions Leagues. Do you see that happening with any manager under the current structure and running of the football club? I suppose that's the question I'd ask of you.
That's a no.
Could be possible with the right manager.
And cool. And if you think could be possible, listen, that's a person.
Could be possible.
Mine is purely no, which is why, again, I don't get why my Ollie kind of attack isn't about. I sometimes wish Ollie wasn't a Man United legend, because then maybe people would see where I'm coming from with it.
I don't think that. But why possibly? If you don't want me, I'm just curious. Why possibly? What is that possible? What's that little? What's the one thing that's making you think it's possible? Is he frozen?
Yeah, it's frozen.
I think I would.
I think
He's back.
There you go.
When we did I freeze?
You froze for a second.
He froze, bro. Yeah.
Oh, he's definitely frozen now.
One sec.
I think before he comes back, like I would always look as a Liverpool fan. I always think when United are going through a bad spell, my first thinking is they'll spend their way out of it. That's always my thinking on Manchester United, because they are a massive financial force. They will spend their way out of it, but I think it's gone beyond that. And look, don't get me wrong. You don't like the Glazers, and I get that. I absolutely and 100% get that. But the outlay has been more than enough, in my opinion, to be absolute challengers in this league, right? But what I'm saying, the outlay's been fine, right? But what I would say is,
but it becomes irrelevant because there's no structure.
Well, yeah, but this is what I'm going to say to you. This is what I'm going to say to you. If you could keep the Glazers, if it was me, I would be saying, okay, the Glazers aren't perfect, but what football owners are, right? So we'll grin and bear that, because the outlay at the moment, it would absolutely make us challenge if we changed in different areas. Woodward is laughable. His position is untenable and has been for a long time. But the talks of like bring Ferdinand in and bring Neville in and stuff like that, that's madness. Absolute utter madness. You need people in that know the game on a financial sense, much deeper than a guy that played 800 games for Manchester United or wherever it is, right? Yeah. But what I'm saying is, if you get a couple of those things right, and then you go to the manager, okay, and you keep Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, or you bring in Mauricio Pochettino, what happens then is that you're focusing on the manager, you're backing him. Okay, but then that's when patience really needs to come into play. Because listen, Mauricio Pochettino, I think, is an outstanding coach. I think if he takes the United job, he will never get the Liverpool job. And I think he's in with a real chance if he picks his next move correctly to take over from Klopp in 2024. That's just my personal opinion. No, I think Pochettino suits Liverpool way more than Nagelsmann. I think just his personality, I think his demeanour, the way he speaks, his passion. I think Pochettino could be made for Liverpool if he picks the right move for the next 4 years.
If he picks Man United, then it ain't happening.
It ain't happening.
No, we're on really good points here, and we might have to continue. I have got to go, crying children and all of this, and being hit by myself. I do have to leave. But listen, Gav, thank you for coming on.
No problem.
Great to have you here because, listen, we can have heated conversations. Everyone gets on. That's the whole point of it. Too many crybabies out there. But I wanted to get a rival's view on this from the outside in as well. Aaron, of course, JV's gone now. Danny, KJ as well. Thank you.
Woodward out, Glazers out, Viva La Resistance. They're all
tomorrow, big previews coming up. We've got the Manchester Derby preview coming as well, where we're going to be tiering and ranking the Man United first team versus the City first team. That should be an interesting show. Until then, everyone, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you.